Hey guys, this is Cam for 15, back at it with another video for you guys. And I'm back with another My Hero Academia manga chapter review for you guys. And we're here to talk about My Hero Academia chapter 322, titled Great Explosion, Murder God Dynamite, where we get the chapter where Bakugou silent, well, I guess you can say, opens his mouth and finally apologizes to Deku. For really the first time, and even calls him Izuku for the first time we've ever seen him in the story. So yeah, this was a great chapter. This is a great chapter. Now, if you're wondering why I didn't freaking review this chapter earlier, because obviously the unofficial chapter was out. I was waiting for the official translations. Just wanted to see that and everything. From what I read before I made this video, it wasn't much different from the unofficial translations. So yeah, and again, I like to support the official release. Unless it's a super hype chapter, that's when I'll freaking talk about that's when I'll talk about doing unofficial reviews where I review the chapter earlier. But typically going now, I kind of want to review it on the days they come out. But yeah, so let's get to this chapter, because this chapter was definitely really freaking good. Again, these last few chapters, man, have been like chapters where it's like this could go up there for best chapter of the series. And honest to goodness, I feel like a lot of people are definitely putting this chapter as the best chapter in the series, just wholeheartedly. Now, I haven't read much My Hero Academia chapters in the past. I only started reading up until like the My Villain Academia arc, really, or really from like the My Villain Academia arc until then. But yeah, I would definitely say like this seems like it would be the best chapter, and when this gets adapted into the anime, this is going to be a really good moment where it might go down as the best anime episode, just from the standpoint of just what's going on here. So last week we all knew how Deku was trying his hardest to get away, but then obviously Ida, Bakugou, and Todoroki along with Ochako create a great plan to catch up to Deku going at super fast speeds. We saw Ida at the end of last chapter grab Deku's hand. So the chapter starts off in that same thing. We have Deku inner monologuing within himself saying, I have to free myself from his grasp, but I'm too tired to move and everything. And this is when Ochako releases Bakugou and Ida fall. Kirishima catches them. And this is when Kirishima, he speaks his hearts, and he brings up the fact of when he was telling Deku, because we know from his backstory how he saw a kid on the news save his friend from a monster, and he had no quirk. He had no quirks and stuff like that. And he was telling, obviously Deku, like, hey, that was you, wasn't it? As we all know, that was Deku from the start of the series, going to save Bakugou against that slime monster with no quirk and everything. And, you know, Kirishima goes and say, that didn't have to do anything with any powers or nothing. And he's like, look, what you did back then is the same sort of stuff, you know, we're taking action for you now and stuff like that. So Ida thanks Kirishima for what he did and stuff like that. Then you have the rest of Class 1A show up in front of Deku, and we have Mina essentially walking up crying, saying, like, look, Deku, I can't stand the case of losing anybody else, essentially hinting at the fact that the Midnight Death. Really saying she doesn't want to see anybody else die or run away, and she never sees them again. And essentially she's like, look, I want you to I want you to stick with us. I want you to stay with us. So because look, we got like many more classes and stuff to do. And this is when Deku starts talking, and he's like, I like that, but I'm too scared for all the people at UA. I don't want to make any more trouble for anyone else. Things just can't go back to how they used to be. And Deku's somewhat still kind of in this mindset. He's more, I guess you can say, subdued and everything. And he still kind of has the feelings like he can't go back because he's just going to put more people in danger. And then this is when we get this is when the chapter starts to be great for Bakugou's character. And we really see where Bakugou essentially pours his heart out to Deku, and then by the end of it, apologizes to Deku, and essentially just gets all that character development in this one moment, and we see this. So I'm going to go through this and talk about and say everything Bakugou said. Now, Bakugou starts out his statement saying, hey, remember what I said when Shigaraki cut me up and he impaled me and everything? And Deku's like, no, I don't. And Bakugou says, it was stop trying to win this on your own. But I had to say more. I needed to tell you that I got stabbed because my body moved on its own. He goes on to tell Deku about their history. I like that part where he brings up the fact to Deku, like, my body just moved on its own. Just like how Deku, he always thought when it came to saving Bakugou about all those years back, about that when the series first started, we all know Deku's body moved on its own to do the same thing. So I like that. And this is when Bakugou goes into their past, rivalry / friendship type of thing, where Bakugou explains how he felt at Deku about Deku and tells it to his face. He goes on to say, I always looked down on you because you were quirkless. You were supposed to be beneath me, but I kept feeling like you were above me. I hated it. I couldn't bear to look at you, and I couldn't accept the way you were. And also during this diagram, they do flashback panels to certain events, as well as I love the panels where they have it where it shows Bakugou and Deku as kids, then shows them when they from their junior high, and then another image to when they were at UA, and then another image to how they look now in their hero costumes and everything. I think that was beautiful paneling and drawn by Horikoshi, essentially saying this is how far, this is showing the growth in these characters in their own separate ways of how far they've come since the very start of them knowing each other and stuff like that. Bakugou goes on to say, so I kept you at an arm's length and was mean to you. I tried to act all superior by rejecting you, but I kept losing that fight. Since we got into UA, nothing's worked out how I thought I would. Because we remember Bakugou from early stages of My Hero Academia. Early stage Bakugou thought that he was going to be the best dude in UA, he's going to be the best hero at UA, and nobody else could touch him. And over the course of time, over all these months, Bakugou's looking and he's like, this hasn't been going exactly how I thought it would. Hell, Deku's, doing much better things here at UA than I ever could, and stuff like that. So Bakugou goes on to his explanation saying, instead, this past year forced me to understand your strengths and my weaknesses. And I do like what he said. He's like, this past year, I really had to think, what made you strong? And when it came back to me, when I was looking at me, what is the things that make me weak? Things that don't help me, things that I need to improve on, and stuff like that. And this is when Bakugou goes to say, look, don't expect anything to change a thing between us, but I gotta speak my truth. And this is when he calls Deku Izuku for the first time. I think this is him calling Izuku for the first time in his characters, and what we've seen, and especially I think in his character as a whole, of him calling, Deku not by the freaking name he gave him as a bully name, but him calling him, by his name, his first name, Izuku, and stuff like that. And I do like the fact that he makes mention, look, just because I'm speaking my heart out and I'm eventually later apologizing, don't expect my personality to be buddy with you and I'm having my arm around you and we're gonna be like, woo, 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 woo. No. Don't forget that. I'm still gonna be a hard ass regardless. And I'm still gonna be the same dude I've always been from day one. Or the same type of fiery personality he has, essentially. I really do like he mentioned it. He says like, look, that's not going to change. So if you say something stupid, I'm still going to be like, shut up, you damn nerd, and everything. Just know that I have respect for you and stuff like that. And I'm glad to call you my friend. And this is when we get a beautiful shot. This is definitely probably shot of maybe so far, probably going to be My Hero Academia manga shot of the year. And that's with everyone around, the other UA students around. Essentially, you just have Bakugou lowering his head after seeing Izuku. He says, I'm sorry for everything, essentially saying he's sorry for everything he's done in the past for him. Or the past to him, which I feel like is the one thing Bakugou definitely needed to get off his chest and finally tell Deku, like, hey, dude, look, I'm sorry for everything I caused you. I'm sorry for all the bullying and stuff like that. Because remember, early stage Bakugou literally told Deku, like, you should just kill yourself and stuff like that. You remember how dark and much of a jerk evil state, like, beginning stage Bakugou was. And, you know, him finally getting that apology, him saying sorry off his chest, is something that he's going to feel comfortable doing, and he finally did it here. And I do like that. Because at the end of the day, even though Bakugou, you know, really gets ticked off and gets annoyed by Deku from time to time, he knows at the end of the day, Deku's a good dude, and he's a dude, and Deku's that dude who reached out his hand to be his friend, and stuff like that. So Deku hears this, his eyes literally light up because they kind of show like his eyes, like his pupils weren't even there, and then he sees after Bakugou apologizing, the pupils come back in his eyes, and he's just utterly appalled and shocked. So like Bakugou goes on to say, "There's nothing wrong with him. There's nothing wrong with the path you've been walking down, since inheriting One for All and following All Might's lead. But now you're barely standing, and those ideals alone ain't enough to get you over the wall you're facing. We're here to step in when you can't handle it all on your own, because to live up to those ideals and surpass All Might, we gotta save you, the civilians, and UA. The civilians at UA, and the people on the streets, because saving people is how we win." And I do like the statement too. He's like, look, man, you know, I understand the burden you have, but it's like, and I know you're trying to live up to those ideals, but listen, don't try to do what All Might did. Try to surpass what All Might's doing. Essentially saying, listen, man, try to surpass, do something different than what past All Might wouldn't do. And we all know past All Might, he didn't really ask for help. He did everything on his all by himself, and mostly was trying to lead a simple peace. And obviously that, because of it, everybody relied on him. And obviously we see now that All Might's gone, now guess what? Heroes actually have to do their jobs and stuff like that. And some of them couldn't handle it. And that's why Bakugou and the other Class 1A students were like, hey, let us help you, because we don't want to be in this situation again, you know, 20 to 50 years later, where you do everything similar to All Might, you're the symbol of peace in the future, and then guess what? When the time comes, when all hope's lost and other heroes need to step into the fray, we want to be there for the tough times and say, we've been in this position before, and we can handle this, and we can stand alongside what is going to be more than likely the strongest hero in the world. I do like that. I really do like that, and stuff like that. And I do like the fact that he's like, look, man, saving people is how we're going to win this whole thing. Yeah, stopping the villains is going to definitely help, but saving people right now in this moment, getting that trust back with those people in hero society yet again, in heroes, we need to save them so eventually they can be like, maybe we were a little bit too hard on them. Yes, in some cases were they unjust, but listen, these guys, they come to save us even in the toughest times. Eventually, this is when Deku finally starts talking, and in a monologue, he's like, everyone has always been way ahead of me. He says, I said you couldn't all keep up with me. And this is when Deku's like, I'm sorry for saying that. I should have not said something so awful. Bakugou catches him right as Deku's passing out, and he falls over because he's just he's just exhausted. He passes out, and Bakugou catches him. He's like, yeah, we understand, we get that, and everything. Momo's like, okay, well, the first hurdle's done. We took care of this, but now this road is going to be a perilous one, and we're on it for the long run, essentially. Essentially, Momo's saying, like, look, hey, we got ourselves in this situation now, so there's no turning back now. So let's get through it, and it's going to be a hard one. And obviously, Ochako's like, yeah, and this is when they start to focus on Ochako in this chapter. So when Deku starts to wake up, they're at UA, at the UA barrier, and we see 13 with her mask off. I don't know if we've seen 13 in the past with her mask off, or the top part of her mask off, of her hero costume off. And this is when she talks to Deku, and she's like, at present, most civilians have moved into evacuation shelters across the country. The majority of the holdouts are anti-hero protesters who form vigilante corps, are violent pillagers simply riding the wave of the escaped convicts. And that's when we get the shot of the UA barrier, and the UA barrier literally looks, well, they literally said the UA barrier is gonna be something crazy, and we see the UA barrier, and that's it literally looks like the gates of the Tartarus prison, like literally. It looks like the gates of the Tartarus prison. So 13 goes on to say, every day more people grow wary of the anti-hero ideology and decide to move into shelters. So we get an update of saying, well, most civilians now are realizing, oh, this isn't a good idea. And I feel like we need heroes more than ever. So it's good to hear that there are actual civilians starting to get the idea in their skulls finally, like, oh, yeah, we need heroes to help us, because we can't survive if they're not doing anything. So yeah. Now 13 goes on to say, while most of the violent radicals end up forming gangs, they're easy enough to track down. The mass evacuation continues amidst the violence, and personnel are assigned to deal with one effort or the other. Everyone is doing their utmost to improve the situation. As for the aid you are providing out there, other heroes and the police are now able to take on that burden, essentially saying, hey, listen, the police and the other heroes that are still working, we can help you. So thank you for what you've done so far, and stuff like that. So Deku sees this, and he's like, this is UA. And Sero's like, yeah, the UA barrier is out in full force, and this giant wall is just the tip of the iceberg. Bagakure goes on to say, like, apparently there's like more things to offer with the security system. And two, we find out that this security system, like, literally can combine with Shiketsu. So we can combine, so like essentially, you know, they can make a gateway to connect to from UA to Shiketsu High. That's crazy. That's crazy. Now, obviously, Deku's inner monologue, he's like, of course I want to honor Class A's feelings about all of this, but and then Deku's like, no, I can't come back. And we hear all this noise, and we see the civilians in the UA bubble like, don't let that kid step into UA. That's the kid. Apparently we heard there's a kid Shigaraki is going after. That's him, isn't it? Are you trying to kill all of us? And everything. And Deku's hearing all this. Now President Mike and the other pro heroes like, yo, calm down, guys, calm down. Listen, hey, he's not a problem. He's here to help. And we need to take him here. And obviously the civilians are like, Nezu told us that we would be safe. If you bring that guy in here, you bring that kid in here, we're not safe. We're gonna be the main targets and everything. He's like, dude, we abandoned our homes. We left here to be guaranteed our safety. And you're gonna let this guy who might bring in trouble over here and everything. And even one comment's like, it's always gotta be UA, doesn't it? And stuff like that. And they're like, let him go somewhere else. And it looks like Deku's gonna, after hearing all this, he feels clearly like the people don't welcome him in or like him and stuff like that. And he looks like he's about to start walking away. But that's when Ochako grabs his hand, and she's like, look, it's okay. And we get the inner monologue in Ochako's head, and she says, Ida and them started linking this chain. Bakugou plays part 2. We're not letting go of him now. We won't let you. Because when heroes need protecting, who will be there to protect them? And the chapter ends with a to be continued. They don't say when the next chapter is coming out. The next chapter is going to be coming out in 13 days. So My Hero Academia is going on a break. And in 13 days, that will be August 22nd. what I checked on my calendar. Yeah, August 22nd on Sunday. That's when we're gonna get the next chapter of My Hero Academia. But this was a wonderful, great chapter. I definitely enjoyed reading this chapter of Bakugou finally apologizing for everything he's done to Deku. I think this was a good character development moment for Bakugou, and we've seen the development of Bakugou, of how his personality has changed, and him finally getting it off his chest to apologize for all the misdeeds and the way he's treated Deku and everything. It's definitely, definitely good. And then I think the moment where I marked out was when he finally called him Izuku. Now, I don't think he's gonna be calling him Izuku from this point on forever. Maybe every now and then he'll call him Izuku, but he'll more than likely still call him Deku. And really, Deku's not really that bully name. Is Deku's hero's name. So yeah. It was also interesting to finally see the UA barrier, and then the civilians' reaction to Deku coming back. Clearly, they're not welcoming him in, but when Deku eventually saves the entire day, they're going to be the same people praising him, saying, "Thank you for saving us and saving the world," and stuff like that. And then it seems like what next chapter is going to really go into is Ochako's whole set of stories, where she finally tells Deku what she feels about this whole situation going on. Because most of the other classmates have spoke their piece about their feeling towards Deku and how much he's meant to them, in each individually. Ida did his part, Bakugou did his part, Shoto did his part, mostly everybody. The only person that hasn't done their part in saying what they feel is really Ochako. We only had that one moment between Deku and Ochako at the start of this whole stuff where she's like, "Why don't you just come back?" And then when Deku last chapter kind of sped past her. So in this moment, we see as the chapter ends, they give a little bit of focus to Ochako. And I did like the moment where she grabbed his hand saying like, "Look, it's okay. Don't listen to them. We're going to get you to safety and we're going to help you," and stuff like that. So I'm guessing next chapter is going to be more or less centered around, some of the UA people who know Deku probably finally like, "Hey man, I'm glad you're back." Maybe we'll see Deku's mom, Inko Midoriya, run up to Deku and say like, "Never do that again. I don't care, if you're going to be some major superhero, some, special, superhuman powers and stuff like that. At the end of the day, I'm still your mom." So maybe we might get a reunion between Deku and his mom. And then I feel, again, like I said, I feel like next chapter is going to be the one-on-one chapter of Ochako and Deku, where Ochako finally talks to Deku, how she feels about this whole situation, how she speaks on how Deku's inspired her to become a hero, and how Deku's inspired her to come up with more things to do for heroes. And she'll probably tell Deku like, "The thing is, I want to do to save heroes as we save civilians, and my thinking is, who's there to save heroes when they need saving? And this is, what I want to do for you. You're my first hero that I want to save," and stuff like that. And who knows? I'm just throwing it out there, but what if we finally get the Ochako confession to Deku? Whether it's in the form of maybe, I would love a kiss, or maybe her finally getting it off her chest to say that she fell in love with Deku, because Deku inspired her and everything. I honestly think the Ochako confession to Deku is coming. I really believe she's gonna finally confess to Deku, whether it's next chapter or the chapter after it. And I really do hope she confesses to Deku, because we see throughout the series that it's something that's been on her chest, and she can't seem to get away with it, get away from it, because it's been the one thing that she's been affecting. That's been affecting her, which kind of has taken her mind off things. I would love it to where she finally confesses to Deku to get it off her chest, so she feels like it's something she always doesn't have to worry about. And maybe she can go about the case where, after she says everything she says about how he's inspired her to do the hero and this whole hero, she can say, "Maybe never do that again, because you scared me. I care about you. I love you. I care about you, and I don't want to see you." Maybe she makes a mention too, where she's like, "You said that the old Deku is gone, but I don't believe that." that same old Deku that I fell in love with is still there somewhere. And maybe that's when Deku's like, what are you trying to say? And then obviously that's when you can say, have Ochako probably say like, I love you, Deku. You know, you may, ever since we first met, I've had feelings for you. Or ever since, you know, you've done all these things for me, my heart's been racing for you and I can't stop it. And every time, you know, I look at you, every time I get these weird feelings every time I think about you. And then maybe that's when she confesses, and then, you know, maybe after she leaves, she's like, look, I'm gonna let you get some rest. After this whole incident, maybe we can talk about, you know, our relationship later. I would like it if that's not like the end of the chapter. I would like it if the end of the chapter is where she says, I love you. I think that would be a great cliffhanger of a chapter, where she says, I love you, or I like you, like that. But I also think a funny thing would be where after she leaves the room, you could see the other UA girls, mostly leading the charge by Mina, probably like, you finally told him, didn't you? And then you could have the typical Ochako blushing, you know, gig where she's like, and stuff like that. So I definitely like that. I definitely do think Ochako's going to talk to Deku. They're going to have that one-on-one conversation like Bakugou did with Deku and many others had with Deku. And I think I'm more than likely led to believe that in this whole thing she's going to talk to Deku, she's going to confess her feelings for him. And I think that would be much needed character development for her to move past on this, so then she can focus clearly on her hero stuff, because we know in the past the whole feelings for Deku stuff has been affecting her. But this was a great chapter. I love this chapter, especially for Bakugou. Again, I love the fact that the title of the chapter is Bakugou's hero name. So yeah, so Deku's finally back at UA. It seems like we're gonna see some other interactions along, like which I have a feeling it's gonna be Ochako's interaction of Class 1A up next to Deku, which will probably close out everything else, and then we'll go on from there. So yeah, but other than that, that's kind of it. So see you guys on the next video. So if you guys like the video, leave a like, put in the comment section your thoughts on this chapter of My Hero Academia, your thoughts on Bakugou's apology and stuff like that, as well as hit the subscribe button to get more My Hero Academia content, whether it's the anime or the manga. Other than that, guys, I'm the guy over. Hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day. Until then, guys, stay safe. Peace.